Hello and welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta, and today you are going to get a solo episode from me. My team has said, why not bring me back? It was always the plan in this podcast to have me do a solo episode every other episode. And there's certain podcasts that I follow where I actually only want to hear the solo episodes. I don't want to hear the interviews of the other guests because I'm actually obsessed with the host and what they have to say. So we're bringing this concept back here and now. And so I hope you enjoy what I'm going to dive into today. So today's topic is the doshas, the mind-body constitutions from Ayurveda and how they apply to you. And most people have never heard of the doshas. But the thing is, so many of us have heard of different personality quizzes and tests that we take to try to understand ourselves better. You may have taken the Myers-Briggs. You might have taken, I don't even know the names of all of them, but I've taken so many where I'm like, oh, I'm an INDF, I'm a whatever, INDJ, I think it is. But it's so cool to take those tests because it gives us a little deeper layer of understanding of who we are and why we are the way we are. Oftentimes it gives you forgiveness because you understand why you have certain traits that maybe don't line up with what society wants, but they're your traits. They're what make up you. You also can preemptively understand your own tendencies, your own imbalances, your own traits that might get inflamed or might get an overreaction in certain situations. So you're just able to self-guide and self-navigate the world better. And that's what I love about the doshas. And so let me first share like a story or two about the doshas because I find the stories to be the fun part, and then I'll explain them to you. And when I do, I'm sure you're gonna immediately go, "Oh my God, that's me! Oh my God, that's me!" I love it when people have that reaction because it's like, yeah, that is you. That's the template. But what can we do with that now? How can we leverage it to support ourselves better for our health? So if you know me well, you know I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. I do Ayurvedic lifestyle consultations for people. And the first thing I do is I ask them to take a dosha quiz. I ask them to take this quiz from as far back into their childhood as they can remember, and then for the here and now. And why am I doing that? I'm doing that because when we're born with a certain dosha, we're born with this prakruti, and then over time things can change and we can become imbalanced in our doshas. So here's a cool story to illuminate that. I have an incredible client. We'll call her Priya. She's a powerhouse, amazing woman, mom. I really love this woman. I think she's awesome. And her dosha coming in, she was severely balanced in her Vata. And she's a classic Vata person, but she was having a severe imbalance because she had gone through so much in life, so many different changes, so many different uprootings that made her feel ungrounded. And then in the previous year, she had done this huge detox, drinking green juice, like really detoxing at all levels, spiritually, physically, everything. And so by the time she got to me, she was so severely imbalanced in Vata. Vata is like an air, ether, movement type energy, wind energy. She really needed support to get grounded. And it was like an open and shut case. Like it was an easy one. But she is such a beautiful soul who understands the work. And so she just stepped in and she made a schedule. She took everything that I teach in my program and she applied it to herself. And she ended up becoming grounded, whole, centered, really releasing all those Vata tendencies that were keeping her distracted with brain fog and unable to focus. She was able to really focus and finish the work that she started. So a lot of the imbalances she suffered from evaporated. And that to me, I just love seeing that when your entire system and being comes back into balanced and centeredness because you're in alignment with your dosha or your constitution. So let me explain the concept because you're probably like, what is this woman talking about? I have no idea what she means by Vata. So in Ayurveda, we have three primary doshas. And we teach that everyone has a primary and a secondary dosha. So they have one that's predominant and then one that's secondary to that. Some people can be equal in all three doshic, which is also great. It's very good. Sometimes hard to treat, but it's a good thing to be balanced like that. So the first dosha I like to explain is called Vata. Here in the West, most people pronounce it Vata. So a Vata person is someone who's thin and wiry. They tend to be taller or shorter than anyone in their demographic. They tend to have thin, wiry features. So thinner bones, smaller bones, delicate bones, long oval face, have a tendency towards thin or brittle hair, have a tendency to have disrupted gut, like constipation, different issues with gut health, tend to have very disrupted light sleep as well, may have insomnia. This is someone whose brain goes 100 miles a minute. So this is like that fast talker, fast mover, busy body, always in motion, can't settle down type of person. Their mind just goes. They tend to be really creative. So this is your artist type who's always got new ideas. They're creators, all that. Maybe musical, always in motion. They can't have a job that makes them sit down. They would go nuts. And yet, one of the drawbacks of Vata is they tend to not finish what they start. So people around them might look at them like flakes because they don't finish what they begin. But Vata has such a unique opportunity because, yes, it's the air of wind and ether. It's this energy of motion. But we need motion. Motion is what's keeping us breathing. It's what's keeping all systems moving. We wouldn't have artists if we didn't have that Vata type who's so creative and up in the sky and in those other dimensions. A Vata person has so much energy. So it's funny in the pandemic, when the pandemic started, some people were like, yeah, I ran 14 miles every day. And I was like, wow, that's a Vata personality right there. Like I would never get up and start running miles per day in a pandemic. I sat down and hung out and cooked and did a lot of other things. But a Vata type just got out there and had to move. And so you can imagine there's certain career types that are very beneficial for a Vata. For example, teacher, someone who's always in motion, any job that keeps you in motion, athletics, artistry, all these kinds of things. Vata people have a certain prescription of homework to do from Ayurveda in terms of their food, their lifestyle, and all the things that will keep them in balance. And so we can get into that. But Vata people, you might imagine when you're Vata imbalanced, that's a phase or a season where your mind is going 200 miles a minute. You are always in motion, can't settle, can't sit down, might be like ADHD type, like unable to ground energy. Now, let's move into Pitta. So a Pitta person is going to be someone who is medium body, not thin and wiry like Vata, and not heavy and grounded and more heavy set or big boned like Kapha. So in the Pitta person, you have someone who tends to be all the different traits of fire. Pitta is fire with some water. And here in the West, you might pronounce that Pitta. So a Pitta person, medium bodied, tends to have reddish skin, reddish hair, tends to have early graying. Pitta people aren't going to have a longer face. They're going to be somewhere in the middle. This is someone who has a significant appetite. So think of fire. They're hungry. They're hangry. They consume. And a Pitta person tends to have a sharp mind, sharp brain, ambitious, tend to be go-getters, tend to want to do big things. This is someone who, on the negative side, has all the tendencies of a volcano. So they can erupt, they can explode, they can have this tendency towards erupting. If they get hangry, they're really hard to manage, really hard to balance. They don't know how to stay cool, calm, and collected. So this is someone who tends to explode on everyone around them. They overreact. They tend to take fast decisions. They don't know how to be cool, calm, and collected about things. I know a lot of Pittas around me. So I make sure they're well fed because then they're more settled, at least, within the reactions that they're going to have. Pittas can tend to really destroy the relationships around them. They can take things out on the people around them, frustrated, angry, all of that. These are Pitta traits. And Pittas tend to be inflamed. They love hot, spicy foods. They love to eat all the things that are going to irritate and ignite them, as opposed to being attracted to the things that will keep them cool, calm, and settled. And so when it comes to Pitta, we have a whole protocol for like, keep that fire in control, guys. You're like a nuclear reactor. And you need to keep things managed or you will explode and erupt. And then finally, you have Kapha. A Kapha person is Mother Earth energy. They are that grounded energy. Maybe you have a spouse or a partner who's super grounding. Like you just hug them and you feel like, oh, the whole world just settled. I have a spouse like that. Like everything settles. So Kapha, we pronounce that Kapha here in the West. Kapha person's going to have rounder features. This is a person who's bigger boned. They're stronger. They can lift more. They're like that warrior class of people. They've got that strength in them innately. This is someone who's going to have rounder features, rounder face, oily and curly hair. This is someone who's going to be a little bit bigger boned. They're not going to be the thin and wiry Vata. And they never can be, no matter what they do. They aren't medium body. They are a bigger, stronger body. This is someone who has a lot of resilience, someone who's very loyal, someone who's very one thing at a time. You might find that they talk a little slower. They're not the fast talker like the Vata or the Pitta. They're going to be very one thing at a time. They are the ones who are caretakers. They take care of everyone. They're so kind and so giving. When imbalanced, they tend to get jealous because they want their people to be their people. And they might have a slower metabolism and have a tendency towards more weight gain. And so we have to support the Kapha person in understanding their nature and understanding how to stay balanced. And so those are the explanations of the three doshas. And you may have thought, whoa, I really do feel like I'm this one, or I really feel like I'm that one. The reason most people come and find me to help them with their health is they're either feeling really imbalanced and they don't feel like themselves in their body, or they've got a huge stack up of health issues and no one else is getting to help them, autoimmune or otherwise. And they're not being given any clear answers as to like, what's the root cause? And I can usually just look at that pile up and say, you know what, my gut says it's this. And then I guide them through hiring the right functional medicine team, working with me, working with other coaches around me who I know are the best practitioners, and we address what's going on there. But when it comes to not feeling like yourself in your body, that's usually a doshic imbalance. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you a story. When I had my first kiddo, I gained 45 pounds. First pregnancy, I was so nauseous. I lived on queso and chips and cheese on toast. And that weight gain doesn't look real good when you're only 5 feet tall. And so I gained all this weight. I felt like a beached whale, had Anya at 41 weeks. And afterwards, I was like, okay, I'm ready to be me again. I'm ready to feel like Shivani, original body. I've always been into fitness and health and feeling so great in my body. It took me forever to lose the baby weight. It took me probably a year, maybe longer. And as I lifted and worked and had so many setbacks, plantar fasciitis, I threw out my back, all these things that led me to taking way too much NSAIDs, eventually leading me to start a turmeric company. I had all these health issues. I always felt like I wasn't myself in my body. Like my brain wasn't operating the same way. My body wasn't the same way. I didn't have the same level of energy. I was always tired. Brain fog was really bad. Unable to focus, less motivated. Just everything was off for who I am innately in my personality and body. I'm a Pitta by birth. And so at some point, I had one of my old business partners who looked at me and he's like, hey, like, when are you going to get your mojo back? Like, where's old Shivani? There's work to do. I'm trying to give you PR clients. Like, where are you? And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I can't figure this one out. And I finally thought to myself, like, what, if you were a practitioner, how would you guide yourself out of this sand pit? What would you do? And I was like, well, dosha balancing comes first. So I always write out prescription plans to myself. I wrote out a plan and I started winding myself, like unwinding out of what had happened. And it was a movement from Kapha, feeling heavy. The imbalances of Kapha are lethargic, heavy, weighed down. Yes, you're caretaking everyone, but you're not taking care of yourself, frustrated about it. Just not feeling like yourself in your body is how I felt. And I slowly walked myself back to myself. And I always thought later about it. I was like, that felt like if I was Tom Brady and you took me with my epic #1 winning self, greatest of all time, and you dropped me over in Siberia, no cell phone, no credit cards, no resources, and said, find your way home. Good luck to you. And then I had to go find my way home. It took forever. It took so much time. And it really got me to dig back into all of the Ayurveda I loved. That's when I embarked on my master's in Ayurvedic sciences and then my PhD in turmeric. So I was like, this is ridiculous. This is not okay. Just having kids can throw you off your entire life game and you lose years of time. That's extremely frustrating. And it's interesting because in all my work having a practice, So many women come to me, and that is the issue. They feel lethargic, heavy, slow, brain fog, fatigue, can't get off the couch, just like not right. And it's because their original template, their original dosha from birth is Vata or Pitta, and they're living in Kapha land. And my job is just to walk them back. Sometimes I get clients who are Vata, who are just so imbalanced in their Vata energy, and my job is to ground them. Rarely do I get Pittas who are super inflamed. I just got one this week, but so inflamed and everything's coming up like problem after problem in their health, and it's all rooted in inflammation. It happens sometimes because I do make a turmeric supplement, so we do get into those conversations of like what's an anti-inflammatory diet, anti-inflammatory lifestyle, how do you balance Pitta, all those things. But it's just so interesting if you take a look at yourself. We're born with our dosha. It is the combination of our parents and time and place of birth and everything that pulls together to create us, usually our two parents, that creates our dosha. And then over time, different traumas, different events that happen, different life events really can throw things off. And that's when we have to look at like what threw you off? What happened? Was it a surgery? Was it something big? How did we get to here? And then my job is just to help you walk yourself back to yourself. That's it. It's pretty simple. It's simple if it's clear to you what the doshas are and what someone's struggling with. And I always find it so fascinating. And some people are actually natural kaphas. That's also an interesting story. I had a client who came to me, amazing woman. She is a swim teacher. She's a natural kapha. And so when I worked with her, she was actually having major sleep issues. Sleep issues like I've never seen it. She went to the doctor and the doctor's like, you are about to lose your mind. Like, this is not good, the lack of sleep you're getting. And so she signed up with me just to fix her sleep. I was like, no worries. She joined my 6-week program. She wanted to learn everything. We addressed sleep first because that was critical. And then as we went through and we did a detox and different things, one of the biggest things she said came out of it was she understood herself better as a kapha. Because if you are a kapha in modern day society, and modern day society says, hey, you need to wake up early. You need to rise with the sun. You need to push through all day. You can't sit on the couch at night. Have a side hustle. Do more. Build more. Why don't you want more? Why don't you look like a size 0? Like those yogis on Instagram and these people frolicking around the world. Why aren't you one of those? When physically, what you're describing is impossible. It's impossible. I've had a personal trainer. I was like, hey, I really like Jessica Alba. That would be a great body. And he goes, you'd have to take chainsaws to your hips. Have you seen the body type you have? That's not your body type. And that's when I realized, wow, yeah, you're right. I'm a Pitta. I'm in the middle. I can't be a Vata body. I can become a Kapha body. But it's not actually, I can't. Because when I do try to lift super heavy, I throw things off and get injuries and then have to nurse those darn injuries. But it's so important to understand what your dosha is and then to make peace with it and to understand all the things you can do to stay in balance and to thrive. The goal is to thrive. My goal is always, how do I build optimal health, vibrant health? How do I thrive with my health? And that starts with a very intuitive understanding that dosha is your foundation. And how do you intuitively manage your dosha on a daily basis? How do you build your life around your dosha? Because that is the ultimate game changer. I, as a Pitta, manage my entire year according to my dosha because we have seasonality with the doshas. I manage my day and my daily rhythm to my dosha. I manage the trips we take and in what seasons to my dosha. I'm very specific about how my life is managed. And since I did that, my kiddo is 14 right now? So about 12 years ago, I had shifted back into being a Pitta. And since I aligned back to my dosha, that's when everything changed. So when we talk about like manifesting and creating the life you want and success, to me, true success is alignment to my dosha. So I have balance. And then because I'm so balanced and supported, now I can go out and create the life I want. And I can tell you in the last 10 years, my whole life has changed. I built a supplement company. I became a practitioner. I finished my PhD. I get to own the coolest company on earth that makes a difference. And I get to teach my 6-week program and impact people's lives very directly. I have 2 beautiful, healthy kids. I live a really beautiful, blessed life. But above all, I know how to live exactly in tune with my dosha and leverage it to win. And that to me is really cool. Because for me, I know Pitta dosha gets exacerbated in the summer. So I've designed my life around that. I've designed it. My team gets mad at me, but I work 9 months out of the year focused and hard. And those 3 months, I do take my foot off the pedal. If I don't, I end up burnt out. I will hit the fall season burnt out and want to quit all the things I do. And that's a lesson I learned over time. You may be a Vata, and Vata people need to be careful in the fall season. The fall season is where Vata gets exacerbated. Think of it as like fall leaves. It's the windy season. The weather is cooling. So Vata people need to detox and support themselves pre-fall to support themselves for a better fall and do all the grounding things even better. And what's beautiful is if you pay attention to it, Mother Earth is supporting us in doing these things. In the fall, what is the seasonal food? Pumpkins and gourds and butternut squash and beets and root vegetables, soups, stews, warm drinks. But what do? We forget about all that. We eat salads, protein shakes. We want to eat our cold foods all year round. But if we honored the season as it came, it would balance the doshic imbalances that are naturally created at that time. And so that's a simple takeaway from today's episode. Just pay attention to the season you're in and eat for that season. We see it in the stores. Typically, my Sprouts and my grocery stores have 90% of the same food year round. That's awesome. But they have this one section where it's like, oh my gosh, now it's peaches, plums, all those, fun summer fruit season. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to buy those. Great. Fall. I just went in the stores and it's like this huge squash thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I went to Whole Foods for something. I was like, wow, these squashes look beautiful. So I bought butternut squash and ate it with pesto. It was amazing. And if you tune in, you'll start to see your body is deeply craving these things. Your body wants these foods that are nourishing and balancing. We are just overriding all the signals. And so that's where understanding your dosha can be so powerful. I can give you an example from my own life. I live as a Pitta. When I'm imbalanced as a Pitta, you don't want to know me. I know I present sweet and nice on the internet, but post 6 p.m., if I have not eaten on time that day and not hydrated, sweetness goes away and I'm not happy. And so I know for a fact right around 6, there's like a witching hour. You know how you have that with kids? Witching hour. There's this point where all of a sudden I go, you know what? What do you need right now? And I'm taking it seriously as if I was talking to my own kids when they were toddlers. What do you need right now? I need, and my brain will tell me, you need coconut water. You are dehydrated. You need electrolytes. You haven't eaten enough today. You need to eat first. And I'm like, okay. And there are times where I will have to sit and eat just to settle. Then I can heat up food for my kids and feed them. And that's very counterintuitive. I want to feed my kids first and handle them first, and then I'll handle me. But I'm such a fiery Pitta that the reaction's going to be fierce if I don't feed myself. And so reflect on that for yourself. Are you a Pitta? Are you one of those people who gets really hangry, who has to eat on time? Do you run hot, like a hot volcano? Do you need to keep managing with coconut water, electrolytes, hydration, different beverages just to stay soothed in your day? Let's take this example over to Vata. Vata can feel ungrounded. I find it so funny because when a Vata sits across from me, all of a sudden I feel like I'm sitting next to a tornado. The energy is whipping and moving so fast in them. You'll notice they fidget, they're constantly in motion. And I'm a pretty grounded Pitta when I choose to be. So I can feel it as like, whoa, that's a lot of energy. But a Vata person, they're going to feel like the world's going so fast. Everything is spinning. They can never feel settled. They can never feel grounded. They can never finish a thought. They can never finish a task in the order they set out to. This is someone who's going to feel like anxious. Anxiety is a tendency of Vata. Gut disrupted, sleep disrupted doesn't help that, right? And so a Vata person, my classic Vata client, the minute we adjusted her diet to a more grounding, nourishing diet, the minute we set her schedule to eat 3 square meals a day, no snacking, the minute we set her to eat foods that were so nourishing and whole and healthy fats like avocado, everything changed. Adjusting the food schedule alone of someone can change everything. And that's oftentimes the biggest homework with a Vata. And it's not easy. The homework I give a Vata person, they rail against it. Like it feels the opposite of their nature. But sometimes that's the work it takes. That's the antidote to get you balanced again. And it's so interesting. Every time I sit across from a Vata, I'm like, oh, they're going to hate me. I know the homework I have to give and they're not going to like it. And my job is to hold their hand and walk them down this yellow brick road until we get to feeling great. And then once you feel great, you're willing to do the work. But until then, you're kind of having to hold this faith that you're going to get there. And with Kapha people, I always say, look, do you get home at the end of the day and once you sit on the couch, you cannot get up? And they always say, yeah, that's me. I'm like, totally fine. That's Kapha nature. Imagine your Mother Earth and you love and take care of everyone all day. And when you finally sit down on your couch, you're not going to get up again. You're done. You're done with your job. You did your job. You're complete. Anyone who needs anything needs to move around and handle it themselves. And I completely understand. When I was in my Kapha phase of life, once I sat, I did not get up. Ever. And that's okay. I learned how to have my whole day before I sit. And so many times as women, we're pushed into, men too, but pushed into these phases of life where we're caretakers of others. Maybe you're part of the sandwich generation. You're taking care of young kids and your parents and adults. That can create a very Kapha moment because you're having to hold space for everyone. You're having to hold space for slowing down to take care of others. And that's okay. Understand it. I have a book editor and dear friend. I shouldn't name people when I talk about their health issues. We'll call her Barbara. Barbara came to me and she said, yeah, I've put on like 20, 30 pounds. I don't understand. I know Ayurveda thanks to you. I'm studying it. I'm trying to change my health, but it's hard. And I said, well, look what you just went through. You lost your mom and you held space for your whole family to go through this horrific thing that happened. And you took care of her for the last year. That requires like really holding Mother Earth energy and holding on to things. Only once you cross past that time period for however it works out, can you start to release that. And she was like, oh my God, thank you. I thought I was a failure. I thought I was lazy. I thought maybe I just didn't know how to take care of my health when I do. I said, no, this is called you shifted into another dosha. And now you're going to slowly walk yourself back. I find nowadays in modern day society, we go with whatever fad is happening. We want the quick fix. I get it. I'm totally like subjected to it too, where I'm like, oh my gosh, you're telling me high protein works? Okay, I'll do it. I'll hire a coach. And then what happens to me though is my intuition will start nudging me until it finally starts screaming and it'll say, this is not the way. This is not the way for you. You know the ancient wisdom. You know the sattvic diet. You know circadian rhythm. And so the way to help someone balance their dosha is to show you what your primary dosha is, what your secondary dosha is, where the imbalance lies. That's really my first job in any private Ayurveda consultation. Like I need to understand where we're at. I draw it, I write it out, and I'm trying to tune into like how am I, based on all the factors of someone, guide them to getting balanced. And then the toolkit I use is Ayurveda. Ayurveda's toolkit is circadian rhythm. Let's align you to your circadian rhythm, optimized, customized for your dosha. Gaffas need to wake up at a different time than the rest of us. It's okay. Like understanding the rituals and everything around that for circadian rhythm is important. Then we talk about gut health because gut health is the center of all health. And our gut health will be impacted differently based on our dosha. Gaffas will have to address it differently. They have a tendency towards mucus, tendency towards slower metabolism. So they need to ignite their digestive fire. Pittas, we have a really strong digestive fire. We actually need to manage it, moderate it, and modulate it a little bit. I see that a lot in people. It's like, yo, learn the tools. Vata, disrupted, constipated, dried out. They need help rebuilding a gut that's stronger so they're not suffering with anxiety and brain fog and all the things that they have. But they get there through oleation of the gut, oleation of the body, different tools that we have in Ayurveda. So it was addressing circadian rhythm first, addressing diet next. So sattvic diet, gut health, so important. Then next up after that, I talk about mindful medicine chest. What are the teas, tinctures, herbs, foods we can use from Ayurveda to help with different things that we're struggling with, and specifically for each dosha, especially when those doshas get imbalanced in the seasons. Then after that, we talk about super spices. The super spices from Ayurveda are like the superfoods. So turmeric, boswellia, dried ginger, ashwagandha, shatavari, tulsi. All of these things are powerhouses. Amla. I get so excited. The super spices are epic. That's why I play in the world of super spices a lot, because I'm trying to always pull the gold out of Ayurveda and give it to people so we get the result. And then we can talk about this next piece, the lifestyle dosha piece. Then we talk a lot about self-care. I teach the Ayurvedic self-care rhythm because the self-care rituals are so powerful. They detox us, they balance us, and you can customize those rituals based on the dosha as well. And so to me, mind body constitution is really an understanding of the elemental forces within you and those guiding forces that will consistently impact you across the board. As a Pitta, I know I'm fiery. I am an ambitious girl. I want to impact the whole world, and I will not stop until I win. That's my nature. But then how do I balance that nature when I'm a mom? Gotta turn that down a little bit. Can't turn them into crazy, ambitious, driven people. That might not be their nature. Luckily, it is one of my kids' natures. So it makes it a little easier to guide. The other one's such a Vata, it's insane. But understanding the people around you is powerful. Understanding how to keep yourself in balance is powerful. And understanding how to modulate intuitively with your own dosha throughout the year is, in my opinion, the ultimate super tool. Power tool, maybe. I'm not a handyman, so I don't know the words, and I'm not good in construction. But let's say you have a power tool that can get you somewhere faster. I think understanding your dosha is that, because you constantly understand, oh, I'm overheated, out of balance, I'll just cool. Oh, I'm not feeling energetic or what I need, I'm just going to ramp this up. I'm going to keep shifting the gear to get exactly where I need to go. And I'm going to get there faster because I have my dosha to get me there. So I hope this episode was enlightening to you. I hope I didn't confuse you at all. Sometimes doshas can be confusing because it is a complex topic. It's completely new. The goal is to show you, what is your nature? What are the traits and tendencies of your nature? How do you take that innate nature and stay balanced within it? If you're way off balance, we're going to bring you back into balance. And then how do you customize and design a blueprint for yourself for the whole year and your decades ahead, but really throughout the year with seasonality, so that you build a custom rhythm for yourself, one that helps you stay balanced, optimized, vibrant, healthy, at peace, and having the feelings that you want. Some of us want to feel fast moving like the Vata. Some of us want to feel like a rocket ship like the Pitta. And some of us want to feel loved and nurtured and surrounded by the ones we love, and knowing that everyone around us is taken care of. That's more Kapha. And that's great. But understanding which one you are can give you so much self-knowledge and self-peace. So if you would like to know your dosha, I have a dosha quiz on my website at drshivani.com. You can take it and it'll give you immediately the response of your primary dosha. If you want to know your primary or secondary and get some really big insights into your dosha, you can always book a consultation with me. That link is on my website. And if you'd like the whole thing, if you'd like to immerse into the Ayurvedic lifestyle, understand all those different tools and how they apply to you, if you want to reboot your health, if you're having any health struggles in your life, then I recommend my 6-week program. It's called the Inflammation Solution Program. And I've had so many women come through that program, and we've been able to fix their chronic joint pain, their sleep issues, not feeling like themselves in their body, menopause, perimenopause symptoms, a lot of different things that we can address in there. So you're always welcome to book a discovery call with me to chat about that and see if it's a fit for you. I love seeing who is ready to take on a new approach to their health. There are so many approaches out there. What I find is the ancient wisdom knew the truth. And a lot of times nowadays, we're running around creating all sorts of complicated ways to do things when actually the ancient ways, natural, holistic, integrative ways, simply got us there the way we need it to be. They help us build the health that we want, feel the way that we want, without overcomplicating it. So I hope this episode was helpful for you today. If you have any questions, reach out to me on Instagram. It's at dr.Shivani Gupta. Spend time on Instagram and probably a little too much and have a lot of fun there. I hope you've been enjoying all the different episodes of the Fusionary Health Podcast. I love having this podcast. I love the incredible guests who I meet. Please like and share these episodes. Help us get this word out there in the world that there's different approaches to your health. You have the power to transform your health each and every day. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining me for this episode. Check out our sponsor, Fusionary Formulas, the potent turmeric supplement used by doctors around the U.S. for patients with pain and inflammation. www.fusionaryformulas.com. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. For more, visit shivanigupta.com. Subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Click the follow button or subscribe in any of the apps that you use. That's all I've got for you on the Fusionary Health Podcast this week. You have the power to transform your health and achieve vibrant health starting today.